Hello friends, hope you are doing good. Welcome to my channel. And today we are going to look into the venous drainage of the brain. In the previous session, we have discussed about the arterial supply of the brain. If you have not seen that, I request you to go through that quickly so that you can understand the venous drainage of the brain. And why this venous drainage of brain is important? Because the veins are involved in the subdural hemorrhage. So their arrangement and their features and their classification becomes very important to understand the subdural hematoma and its further treatment. So we are going to discuss under following headings. First we will see the characteristic features, how they are arranged and all, because that becomes very important, and classification of cerebral veins into the superficial and deep cerebral veins. Then we will see venous drainage of the different surface of the cerebral hemisphere, then venous drainage of the brainstem along with the cerebellum, and lastly the most important clinical aspects. In that we will discuss about the subdural hematoma in detail. So coming to the characteristic features, veins of the brain are thin walled. Why they are thin walled? Because that is their feature, and what it tells you, they are more prone for hemorrhage by the shearing and tearing forces, because they are thin walled, that you should remember. Then they are devoid of valves, so they can maintain the bidirectional flow and they can communicate with the other veins, so there is spread of infection. And most of them drain into dural venous sinuses. Not all of them, most of them, they drain into dural venous sinuses. What it tells you, so the infection from the dural venous sinuses can spread to these veins, and from these veins to dural venous sinuses. As you already know, dural venous sinuses communicate with the veins outside the skull, and any infection from the outside can spread to the dural venous sinuses, and via dural venous sinuses spread to these veins of the brain, and they pierce the arachnoid matter and meningeal layer of dura mater to reach these venous sinuses. At this point they are very much vulnerable to the injury, and they are arranged in three sets: cerebral veins, cerebellar veins, and veins of brainstem. With this much, let us see a picture showing the arrangement of veins here. You are seeing only the superolateral surface of the left cerebral hemisphere, just a diagrammatic representation. You can see how the veins are arranged there and how they are communicated to the superior sagittal sinus, and how they communicate with each other by the anastomosis there. And here in this picture you can see a specimen of the brain with the veins. You can see here, these are the superficial veins draining into the suprasagittal sinus along the upper margin of falx cerebri. And coming to the cerebral veins, they are mainly classified into superficial and deep depending upon the region of the brain they drain. And again, superficial is divided into superior, middle and inferior depending upon the location. And the deep veins are again arranged into internal cerebral vein, basal vein, and great cerebral vein of Galen. So this is the classification of cerebral veins. Here you can see these are all superficial veins you are seeing on the superolateral surface of the left cerebral hemisphere, and these are the deep veins lying on the inferior surface. And deep veins mainly drain the subcortical gray matter like thalamus, corpus striatum, basal ganglia. Coming to the superficial cerebral veins, they drain the superolateral surface of the cerebrum, and they are arranged into three groups depending upon the location: superior, superficial, middle, and inferior cerebral veins. Here you can see a left cerebral hemisphere depicting the arrangement of superficial cerebral veins. First set you can see these all are superior cerebral veins. Here you can see the middle cerebral vein, and lastly here you can see the inferior cerebral vein draining the superolateral surface. So superficial veins mainly drain the predominant portion of the superolateral surface of the cerebral hemisphere, And first we'll see superior cerebral veins. They are about 8 to 12 in number, and they drain the superolateral part and upper part of the medial surface of a hemisphere, and they directly drain into superior sagittal sinus, and they course obliquely upward and forward against the flow of the blood in superior sagittal sinus. You can see here the arrow is showing the superior cerebral veins. You can see how they are arranged. They are 8 to 12 in number and empty into superior sagittal sinus. They are arranged obliquely, directed upwards and forwards. And this obliquity is due to the backward growth of the cerebral hemisphere. And this oblique arrangement prevents the collapse of the mouth of these veins during increased intracranial pressure. So here you can understand the anatomical arrangement acting as a natural defense mechanism against the increased intracranial pressure. And one of the veins may correspond to the central sulcus or sulcus of Rolando and may get torn during the head injury, leading to subdural hemorrhage. So here you can see a picture depicting the course of the superior cerebral veins. You can see how they are directed upwards and forwards obliquely, and they drain into the superior sagittal sinus against the flow of the blood there, so that prevents their collapse during the increased intracranial pressure. Next we'll see superficial middle cerebral vein. As the name itself says, it drains the middle part of the superolateral surface. It runs along the stem and posterior rami of the lateral sulcus, and it drains the middle part of the superolateral surface, as I already told you, and empties into the cavernous sinus. And it is also connected to suprasagittal sinus and transverse sinus. It is connected to suprasagittal sinus via superior anastomotic vein of Trollard, and connected to transverse sinus via inferior anastomotic vein of Labbe. You can see here, you can notice that is the superficial middle cerebral vein. It is connected above to the superior sagittal sinus via superior anastomotic vein of the Trollard, and to the transverse sinus via inferior anastomotic vein of Labbe. And here also you can see, here is a picture of veins with their names. You can see the superior anastomotic vein of Trollard and Labbe. They connect superficial middle cerebral vein with the suprasagittal sinus and transverse sinus respectively. Coming to the inferior cerebral veins, by the name you can guess where they are located. They are located along the inferior lateral border and inferior surface of the cerebral hemisphere. They drain the inferior surface and anterior part of the lateral surface. And veins from the orbital surface, they drain into spinoparietal and cavernous sinus, as they are attached along the lateral sulcus there. And veins from the temporal surface drain into suprapetrosal, transverse and cavernous sinus along the margins of the attachment of tentorium cerebelli. Here you can see in this picture, you can see these are inferior cerebral veins along that surface. So these are the superficial cerebral veins arranged into superior, middle and inferior location of a supralateral surface. And here in this video you can see, here is the left cerebral hemisphere with its veins, right cerebral hemisphere with veins and arachnoid matter there. And in this view we have removed the arachnoid matter. You can see the arrangement of the veins there into superior, middle and inferior locations. You can see with the anastomosis, and you can see the course of the superior cerebral veins. They are directed upwards and forwards, that is the middle cerebral vein, and these are inferior. And if you isolate left cerebral hemisphere with the superficial veins, you can see here superior cerebral veins 8 to 12 in number, coursing obliquely upwards and forwards, that is middle cerebral vein, connecting to the suprasagittal sinus via superior anastomotic vein, transverse sinus via inferior anastomotic vein, and lastly we are seeing inferior cerebral veins So this is about the superficial cerebral veins. Next, we will move on to the other cerebral veins like anterocerebral vein. It drains the medial surface and runs along with the anterocerebral artery. Deep middle cerebral vein lies deep in the lateral sulcus, drains the insula and opercular cortex. Striate veins, as their name itself indicate, they drain the striatum. Here they drain the anterior part, and all these three veins join in the region of the anterior perforated substance to form basal vein, also called as basal vein of Rosenthal, that we see in the deep vein segment. You can see here anterocerebral vein. Usually the veins of the brain do not accompany the arteries, but here the anterior cerebral vein accompanies the anterocerebral artery, and you can see some of the veins here. The deep middle cerebral vein is there, and striate veins, they join to form the basal vein of Rosenthal. You can see it below. Coming to the deep cerebral veins, they consist of pair of internal cerebral veins, pair of basal veins, and an unpaired great cerebral vein of Galen. These deep cerebral veins, they drain the deeper part of the cortex and subcortical gray matter. That's why they're called as deep. Coming to the internal cerebral vein, it is located within the tila choroidae of the third ventricle, and each vein is formed near the interventricular foramen of Monro by the union of two veins, thalamostriate and choroidal. Thalamostriate veins drain the corpus striatum and thalamus. Choroidal veins, superior and inferior choroidal veins, they drain the choroidal plexus, and both side vein course parallelly along the transverse fissure below splenium of the corpus callosum to form the great cerebral vein of Galen. So these both internal cerebral veins, right and left internal cerebral veins, join to form an unpaired great cerebral vein of Galen. You can see here. Here is the great cerebral vein along the median plane. You can see the internal cerebral vein and great cerebral veins there. Internal cerebral vein is formed by the union of thalamostriate and choroidal veins. You can see here the tila choroidae of the third ventricle is there, and you can see internal cerebral vein formed by the thalamostriate and choroidal veins. Here you can notice that is thalamostriate vein, choroidal vein, they both join to form the internal cerebral vein, and both side internal cerebral vein join to form great cerebral vein of Galen. Here is the brain specimen showing the different veins. You can see the internal cerebral veins there formed by thalamostriate vein and choroidal veins. Tributaries. Thalamostriate vein and choroidal veins are the formative tributaries of internal cerebral vein. Thalamostriate, name itself says, it drains the part of the corpus striatum, that is caudate nucleus, internal capsule and thalamus. Choroidal veins, they convey blood from the fornix, hippocampus and corpus callosum. Septal vein, draining the septum pellucidum and part of corpus callosum. Epithalamic vein conveys the blood from diencephalon. Then lateral ventricular vein carries the blood from thalamus, caudate nucleus and parahippocampal gyrus. So these are the 5 tributaries of the internal cerebral vein. Coming to the basal vein, we already discussed how does this basal vein is formed. It is formed by the union of the anterocerebral vein, deep middle cerebral vein and striate veins in the region of the anterior perforated substance, and it drains the interpedunclar fossa, midbrain and parahippocampal gyri, and it courses backwards around the cerebral peduncle of the midbrain to drain into great cerebral vein of Galen. So it is a tributary of the great cerebral vein of Galen. Here you can notice in the base of the brain, that is the basal vein, that is the course of the basal vein. You can see how it courses around the cerebral peduncle of the midbrain there, and it is formed by these 3 veins, anterior choroidal, deep middle cerebral and striate in the region of the anterior perforated substance. You can see there, and it joins the great cerebral vein of Galen. So let us see the great cerebral vein of Galen. It's around 2 centimeter long, lies in the median plane, formed by the union of the right and left internal cerebral veins, and turns abruptly around the spleen of the corpus callosum, passing through cisterna ambiens, and terminates in the anterior part of straight sinus. So it drains into straight sinus, but it joins with the inferior sagittal sinus. Here you can see the short segment in the green colored, that is the great cerebral vein of Galen. You can see there, it is just behind the midbrain there, formed by the two internal cerebral veins in the median plane, and you can see the two basal veins curving around the cerebral peduncle of the midbrain to join the great cerebral vein of Galen. You can see there, that is the great cerebral vein, and you can see in this specimen, you can see here is the white arrow is showing the great cerebral vein of Galen, and you can see the basal veins there, and also internal cerebral vein. So here also you can see specimen showing the vein of the Galen there, formed by the internal cerebral veins, which in turn formed by the thalamostriate and choroidal veins. So you can notice that is the formation of the great cerebral vein of Galen. And what are the tributaries? Formative tributaries are internal cerebral veins, basal veins, pair of occipital veins, and posterior callosal vein, which drain the splenium of the corpus callosum, around which the cerebral vein takes a turn. And in this video, you can see we have already seen the superficial veins. Here we are seeing the deep veins. When you see the base of the brain along the lateral sulcus, you are seeing that is deep middle cerebral vein, and here near the midline you can see that is the frontal lobe, and that is here you can see anterior cerebral vein. It accompanies the anterior cerebral artery, and along with the deep middle cerebral and striate, it forms the basal vein. You can see there both side anterior cerebral vein and deep middle cerebral veins. This anterior cerebral vein, deep middle cerebral vein, and striate vein joins to form what? Basal vein of Rosenthal, that we will see now. If you see the medial surface of the right cerebral hemisphere, you can visualize the other deep veins there. If you just zoom it and see here, that is corpus callosum, and beneath that you are seeing the septum pellucidum, that is fornix. Below fornix you are seeing the third ventricle, cavity of the third ventricle, and here you can notice that is basal vein, formed by the before mentioned veins, that is anterior cerebral and striate veins, along with the deep middle cerebral vein, that is cerebral vein of Galen. You can see there highlighted in the pink color, that is the vein of Galen, and you can see how it is formed. It is formed by the union of the two internal cerebral veins. You can see right and left internal cerebral veins there. And what are the other tributaries of the vein of Galen? It ends into the anterior part of the straight sinus. It joins the inferior sagittal sinus. Basal veins, occipital veins, and callosal vein are the tributaries of vein of Galen. You can see here in this picture. You can see all the deep veins here. That is inferior sagittal sinus, straight sinus, pair of basal veins, and these are you can see pair of internal cerebral veins there, forming the vein of Galen. So that is about the deep veins. And coming to the venous drainage of the different surfaces of our cerebral hemisphere, the supralateral surface, as we have already seen, upper part is by the superior cerebral veins, middle part by the superficial middle cerebral vein, and lower part by the inferior cerebral veins that we have seen, and posterior inferior part by the transverse sinus. In this picture you can get the idea upper part of the supraorbital surface by the supracerebral, middle part by the superficial middle cerebral vein, and inferiorly by the inferior cerebral veins, and posterior inferior part by the transverse sinus. Coming to the medial surface, upper part by the superior cerebral vein, anterior part by the anterior cerebral vein which runs along anterior cerebral artery, lower part by the inferior cerebral veins, and posterior part by the vein of Galen, because it drains the splenium of corpus callosum and occipital lobe via occipital veins. You can see here the different named veins there: anterior cerebral, superior, vein of Galen. So these drain the medial surface. Coming to the inferior surface, orbital part by the inferior cerebral veins, and tentorial part by the different venous sinuses along with superficial middle cerebral and basal veins. The different venous sinuses draining the tentorial part are cavernous, suprapetrosal, straight, and transverse, related to the tentorium cerebelli. How do you remember this tentorial part drainage? All the sinuses related to the tentorium cerebelli, like your transverse, straight, suprapetrosal, and anteriorly cavernous sinus. So you can easily understand the concept of the drainage of inferior surface if you remember the sinuses along the tentorium cerebelli. Here you can see cavernous sinus is there, suprapetrosal sinus, transverse sinus. These all drain the tentorial part. And coming to the venous drainage of the brainstem, midbrain is by the basal vein and great cerebral vein. Great cerebral vein takes these occipital veins, tributaries there. Pons again by the basal vein, petrosal and transverse sinus, cerebellar veins, medulla by the basilar venous plexus, inferior petrosal sinus, and superior bulb of internal jugular vein. You can notice in this picture veins around the brainstem. They mainly drain into these basal veins, basilar venous plexus, inferior petrosal sinus, and internal jugular vein lying around the foramina magnum. You should remember the veins and sinus around the foramina magnum because brainstem passes through the foramina magnum. That is a simple idea I am giving you how to remember them. And coming to the venous drainage of the cerebellum, they are arranged into superior cerebellar veins, which partly drain into straight sinus, great cerebral vein, and partly into transverse and superior petrosal, and inferior cerebellar veins drain into sigmoid, occipital, and inferior petrosal. Again, remember their location and surrounding structures like postcranial fossa, the veins and the sinuses in the postcranial fossa to understand the venous drainage of the cerebellum. Here you can see in this picture, you can see the veins of the cerebellum are arranged into two sets. That is superior cerebellar veins, and here inferior cerebellar veins. They drain into surrounding veins and sinuses, and that is about the venous drainage. Coming to the clinical aspects, subdural hemorrhage. What is this? It's a collection of blood on the surface of the brain between dura mater and arachnoid matter, because these superficial cerebral veins, they pierce the arachnoid matter, run below the dura mater to reach the venous sinuses. At this point, they are very much prone for injury because of their oblique arrangement, and that is the disadvantage of oblique arrangement. What is the advantage? They prevent the collapse during the increased intracranial pressure. See, the anatomical arrangement have advantages also and disadvantages also, and it is a form of traumatic head injury due to tearing of bridging veins and spread more diffusely compared to the epidural hemorrhage. And types of subdural hemorrhage are acute, subacute, and chronic. Here you can see in this CT on the right side, you are seeing the subdural hemorrhage there. It is spreading more diffusely, crescentic shaped. And what is the difference between epidural and subdural? Epidural is between the skull and dura, that is above the dura, and subdural is between the dura and arachnoid. Involved vessel in the epidural hemorrhage is usually arteries. In subdural, it is bridging veins. What are the arteries involved in epidural? Temporoparietal, most commonly involved in case of temple injuries, because the table of the skull is the thinnest there. Ethmoidal arteries, and in the occipital region, these are transverse sigmoid sinus, and in the vertex, supraparietal sinus. But remember, most of the epidural hemorrhage are arterial, whereas subdural is venous. In the epidural, symptoms include the lucid interval followed by the unconsciousness, whereas in subdural there will be headache and confusion because of the compression of the brain. CT appearance, the epidural hemorrhage looks like a biconvex lens, whereas subdural looks like a crescentic shaped or half moon shaped. You can see there on the left side you can see the subdural hemorrhage. On the right side you are seeing the biconvex lenticular epidural hemorrhage. And in the same person you can see here on the left side you are seeing that is epidural hemorrhage. You can see the biconvex lenticular shape. On the right side you can see subdural hemorrhage, that is banana sign or crescentic shaped appearance on the CT. So this much is about the venous drainage of the brain with clinical importance. Hope you enjoyed, and please give your feedback to improve further. Thank you very much for watching. Meet you soon. Thank you.